Hey everyone, I'm Diana. I'm a 3-time startup PM and I've now co-founded my own startup, and I follow a lot of B2B SaaS companies so that you don't have to.
Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about Adept. So LLMs have been all anybody can talk about in the B2B SaaS world today. And I would say that I'm not entirely sure that LLMs will actually take away jobs, but I think it will change how we work in terms of being able to automate a lot of the things that we used to do manually. And then in some ways, maybe even allow us to scale in ways that we don't need as many people as we used to. So I definitely think there's going to be a lot of change in how people work in B2B SaaS over the next 5 years. Now, Adept is really interesting because they just announced that they raised $300 million last month, and that's like a lot of money. So I was curious about what they did, and what they do is actually very interesting. So I basically classify the startups in AI right now into kind of like 3 large categories. One is what made everyone so impressed about GPT in the first place, generating content. So companies like Jasper, Copy.ai are in that generating content category. The second area that has gotten people really excited is the chatbot area, where people are training chatbots on unique data so that it can do interesting things. Now, this third area where Adept plays in is more of the agent GPT space, where you're basically using GPT to create an agent that can actually take action for you. So I think this headline actually describes Adept pretty well. It's basically a company that's trying to use AI to automate a lot of actions around using software and APIs so that you could actually interact with a lot of software that you use today via clicks in more of a natural language way. All right, so Adept is only available via waitlist, but they have this blog that's available that basically describes their ethos. So essentially what they believe is that eventually no one is actually going to be clicking into software UIs and doing things and trying to Google how to do things within different UIs. Instead, we're going to be using something like an LLM to figure out which APIs to interact with and to actually go across multiple systems to do a specific job without having to have a human involved. Now, I think this is super exciting and I would love to see this happen, but as we know, integrating with a bunch of different APIs is actually a really difficult problem to solve. So I'm really excited to see what Adept comes up with. So in this capability preview section, Adept basically talks about their first MVP, which is basically a transformer that is able to actually browse in a web browser. And there's some really cool use cases for this. For example, one of the really cool use cases is they actually got Adept to help them search for properties on Redfin. Now, you might think, I could probably do this easily myself. Typing this in is not that much faster than like clicking through the search and doing your own filtering. But if you look at some of the use cases, for example, in B2B SaaS, you're able to actually do something pretty complex within Salesforce, like logging a call that usually takes a lot of clicks. You can also use it kind of as a helper as you're browsing through your internet because it has access to your Chrome. You can also use it as a bot in something like Google Sheets so that it can do some work for you. Now, ultimately, I think this is going to become way more interesting if they can allow you to run jobs across multiple software platforms so that people don't have to log into multiple different platforms in order to accomplish a job. And I think there are a lot of use cases where it actually is really manual, and so having a chatbot that can actually do repetitive actions for you is really powerful. Overall, though, I think it's still really early. As you can tell, they're just on a wait list, but I think there's a lot of potential here, and if you're interested in LLMs, it's good for you to know about companies like Adept that exist in the space today.
So I know how hard it is to stay up to date with all of the SaaS products that are literally coming out every day. So I have a playlist that covers all the SaaS products that I find particularly interesting that you might find interesting as well. So if you think this is useful, hit the subscribe button.